Professor, I'm going to ask you, there's a need for microfinance. Why are the banks failing? Because if we foresee a crisis, why are the banks not filling in that gap? Because they seem to have started right, but the inclusion, the penetration of banking in the country, it's even without, if they hadn't been challenged, one wonders how far behind we would be if they hadn't been challenged by something like M-Pesa or what Fred and Dan are doing. Why are the banks failing?
Because they have, even though we have 42 banks in this country, only 4 that run the economy, which is an oligopolistic practice. Even the regulator has not gotten in there to change this. They work as an oligopoly. You know, it's a monopoly, but it exists, we know it, nobody's asking, not even the governor of central bank is saying, how do we open this up? The same thing, we have just 5 apps which are being used. I think we need to culturally tell people that let's spread this. If we spread ourselves around the 42 banks, I don't know whether some we can trust. But that is the problem.
Okay.
That is the problem.
Okay, there's a question here. We're going to take how many questions? 1, 2, 3, 4. Oh, you have a question? I'll come to you last. Once Cecilia talks, and then could you come forward? Mike, I'll need you with the microphone. Yes,
all right, I think mine is just a comment to the MD and IC. The banking industry has faced many challenges, especially in this market. Former banker. Equity came in, like what the professor was saying. He had to get somebody in a branch to come and sign on his form so that he could open an account. So that's the first approach. Secondly, M-Pesa came in, right? And the banks were able to evolve. Thirdly, mobile lending. And in my previous life, actually, one of the reasons why I moved to a fintech as opposed to staying in banking is an engagement I had with the client. And he told me, you guys are like, you're not somebody who gives you an umbrella in the rain. You're somebody who gives you an umbrella in the sunshine. So what that meant, and the situation that was happening at the time, he had taken a loan with me and needed a top-up. Some cash had delayed, and he needed 60 days. And it's the same thing that you'll find very many people going to mobile lending. We have one of our clients who had an event, he needed a quick turnaround, but the bank was not there. So maybe the innovation that the bank should be looking at is your existing borrower. You've already done their KYC, they've been paying down their loan. Maybe what can they access at that time of need? And then now we will also innovate to try and meet that turnaround, and it becomes something that we can do.
And just to mention that you're from Mobi?
Mobi.
Okay.
The one thing that we believe in Mobilon, and I think it's the same thing that Branch believes, is the bankers will want data on lending on bigger tickets. But unless somebody comes and borrows from us, and we give positive data back to CRB, when he comes to you for 5 million, 10 million, then at least you have that comfort to take him to the next level. Because we know we can't do that.
You mean to say until recently,
yes.
If you defaulted on the loan, it doubled within a year? Within 2 months, it doubles. People borrowed 1 million and they were being asked to pay 20 million.
Oh, wow. I said that at the beginning. There is a reason why I don't borrow. Yeah. John.
I think Professor came prepared to lead the banks. No, look, I think David's comment is absolutely correct. The one thing, banks are bad on a lot of levels. No doubt about it. I mean, Professor has recounted the story of asking for the cost a lot. I'm sure that was not an IC bank, thank God. Thank goodness. But one thing we are terrible at, actually, is use of data. Because we do collect a lot of data. And I can assure you, Professor, if you borrowed last year and you come again to borrow to a bank, we'll ask you for the same information we asked for last year.
Okay, why
We
is
are
that?
terrible.
Why?
We're just, we've been bad.
Okay.
We're growing up thanks to fintechs. But what fintechs are doing are using data, machine learning. And as banks have to respond, and I think that's what David is saying. We must respond to the fact that now there's data available. We have a lot of data. How do we use it? And I think if you talk to most banks and you look at their strategy today, one of the things they talk about is data analysis is core.
Okay. There was a question there. Yeah, you.
Hello, my name is Kamal from Credit Info. I think it's just more of a comment than a question.
Okay.
And
could you tell people what you do first?
so Credit Info is a licensed credit bureau in Kenya, but we're actually a global brand. We're in about 45 markets globally. We're the youngest bureau in Kenya, and actually the youngest bureau globally as well. But to go back to the mobile lending, I just wanted to probably say it's more of debunking the perception that people have about mobile lending. One, and I think Fred actually pointed out to it, the largest mobile lenders in Kenya today are banks. It's not fintechs. They're the biggest mobile lenders. The fact of the matter is that the mobile lending was opened up by fintechs, but fintechs don't have what banks have, deposits, cash. And banks don't have what the fintechs have, which is a technology and a know-how. The reality of the matter is, the fact is, these two people need to merge. They need to collaborate to be able to actually grow that market. There's nothing wrong with mobile lending. There's no risk about there being a turnaround in the economy. Those are risks that exist in normal banking anymore. What is needed is collaboration between the fintech and the bank.
Okay, could you talk a little about NPLs? I know Fred said the numbers, but could you collaborate that if you can, and if it's different? Because you have the data to show who is borrowing from everybody, Dan, Fred, and everybody in between.
Yeah, okay, so on mobile lending, very interesting statistics. Everyone, I guess the press likes to focus on the negativity because it sells.
Yes.
The reality, if you look at it in terms of age, the average age of a mobile borrower is between the age of 31 to 50. That tells me that's someone in commerce. So it's actually borrowing to do some sort of trade. The defaults are, as Fred said, is low, is lower than your commercial debt, as much as there are many people borrowing. And what other can I? So, and I mean, if you think about it, the number of people borrowing, it's the same 4 million, regardless whether you have 4 apps or 1,700 apps. It's the same people going to borrow.
Yeah.
If, and once we get there, to a point where you are able to, and I think the professor said this, a way of actually identifying and authenticating that is Kamau who is borrowing. Kamau will be able to get a bigger limit from one borrower as opposed to me going to 4 or 5 different borrowers who are managing their risk by giving me a smaller limit.
Okay, they're managing their exposure.
Exactly, it's a risk.
Yeah,
okay.
Absolutely.
But if they knew who I am and where I'm from, they would rather probably give me the 50,000. But now today, what's happening? The individual is downloading 5
apps, yes, and then combine all of that to
exactly.
get to the 50. All right.
Because that's what you need.
Yeah, for your business.
Exactly.
Okay. I want the gentleman at the front here to ask a question.
Yes.
I'm Florian. I'm coming from Austria. I'm doing some paper trading also into sub-Saharan Africa. But we came here on a fact-finding tour to find out more about M-Pesa and other things, fintechs, what is happening here, and we had great 3 days here. The discussion is very interesting for us. What I'm missing is where is the government in place? If that would happen in Austria with 1,700 apps with mobile lending, we would have regulatory measurements or restrictions.
Yeah.
You say the banks would take 18 months in order to get it approved and all these, to get through the legal steps and everything. On the other hand, I hear the banks are right behind the apps, and they're actually behind there. So there's a way that the banks are lending their own money through an app, but it's not an internal house system, so they don't have to go through these 18 months. In Austria, it would be, I think, impossible. We had some cases with microfinancing which went up to court. Finally, court had to change the law, and the guy was very much up in the press. But it triggered it in a different way, and I very much see the microfinancing need, but that the government is nowhere anywhere near in this discussion. And 1,700 apps with up to 3,600% interest of the maximum rates today, I find this is for me profiteering in the worst art.
Yeah. Professor, you have something to say, I'm sure.
But it's only a few years ago, it's only 5% of the country that have bank accounts. And they also control almost 80-90%. Now, the thing that has brought change is this mobile. If you play with it, you cause a revolution.
John, what's your view?
I think he asked a question we haven't answered. Why is it that the banks, after I said it takes 18 months,
Yes.
why is it that they have, what do you say, 80%? 90% of the loans? The reason was actually just because of the first mover advantage. That the first two mobile lending solutions that were done, yes, it took forever to get approvals, but were by banks. Then afterwards, now it's been fintechs coming in. Well, a lot faster, they're more creative, and the data the banks are required to collect is different from what fintechs will be asked to collect. Yeah?
But you could buy these startups easily,
Which
one
is
after
why
the other.
Which is exactly what I said is going to happen. When
Oh.
was converted and don't work converted.
Yes.
So at some point, banks will have to buy branch over here because they need my deposits. That's what I keep saying.
And these are startup
I may
companies,
not be
they're
able to
cheap
afford
for
them.
you.
They may buy me instead, but one of us has to buy
But Irene, can I ask a question?
Yes.
How come we are sticking on this thing of this 3,600%, 10% before? You know, credit bureau is positive and negative. Positive listing, negative listing. Why aren't we saying 90% of the listing is positive? Why aren't we using that narrative? Because that's the case. 90% of the listings in CRB are positive listings, not negative listings, isn't it? Why aren't we talking about that?
And you know what happened?
And we're just saying 10, 10, 10, 10, 10, 3,600. What about the rest of the universe who's doing good? Because they are growing, they're taking loans and repaying. 70% of his money is working capital. It's funding business. Credit Info has confirmed something good is happening, and we are not acknowledging
But
it.
the good things don't sell.
Good thing.
Just like goodness.
Very right.
Okay, my name is Anthony Gathiaka. I'm in supply chain, and I'm very happy that Professor is here because I'm a believer in the cryptocurrency world. Because one of the things that we talk about, the people you mentioned here, Facebook, Twitter, you said Alibaba, none of those people borrowed. What they did, they raised money through crowdfunding. And that's the opportunity that you need to think about. Because the Mama Mboga has to be funded to grow their business. Because every time you give them 10,000 and they pay 10,000, they're not growing. But if you give them 20,000 and you're able to give them time to grow, then there'll be an opportunity. So the opportunity we have right now is on blockchain technology, where we can borrow money all over the world. And that's what I'm doing. I'm a supply chain, I want to raise $2 million. I don't need fintech. I just go all over the world, I collect coins, tokens, and I have my business running. I think that's the opportunity the banks to look at. Thank you.
The biggest investors in cryptocurrency are the banks. But they will discourage you, don't touch
Don't
it.
touch it.
But if you see behind there, the ones who are buying and selling.
Okay, and also, I think to your point, the one thing that people don't have towards borrowing crowdfunding is we haven't done enough to educate the Mama Mbogas that need this money, that want to go to the next level. And it's on us, all of us, including Professor, the teacher at the university, to pass on that knowledge that there is a gap there. There's a lot we could do in this space. I'm going to take only 2 more questions and then we'll be done. 2 more questions. There is one behind you, Mike. Cecilia will be the last. Yeah. Oh, okay. don't know who is a comment. Yeah, not from there.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah.
Hello, my name is Nelly. I basically have a digital marketing background. I think mine is more of a challenge as opposed to a comment or a question. I think when we have conversations around the mobile lending apps, it's always about the interest, it's always about how many apps in the market, it's always about how we're engaging or how it's changing communities and businesses. But we never really look at the individual. I think there's an opportunity, or rather we're short-sighted in looking at what more value can we offer to this person who's borrowing from this platform. Because as much as they're borrowing because they're in a need or in a sport, can you benefit them out of them giving you that business such that the next time they're in a sport, they're in a probably better position? And how do I, in my own mind, and maybe this is very basic, but we have things like cashbacks that are given back by banks or with credit cards or Visa transactions. Why can't you have cashbacks when you pay back your loan, maybe early or in advance or consistently? If there's a benefit whereby you're going to look at it over the years and reduce the interest rates, how can that benefit be converted such that it's actually tangible value for me, such that maybe if it comes in a value number that can go into a fixed saving that can then be covered up, or an overrider of insurance can be added to it, or maybe if I want to invest it because I borrowed from this platform, maybe it can go into what Professor was talking about of crowdsourcing. Maybe I want to invest it, and it's not much. Probably maybe I've saved up 1,000 bob because I've transacted 6 months in the year. Can that go towards the crowdfunding that we're trying to do, such that I'm actually earning interest from that little money that is benefiting me after benefiting you, making money from me? And maybe there's still some thinking to it, but for me that's a challenge.
Okay, we're going to take a question from Cecilia and then a comment from our last previous speaker, and then we'll call it a day.
First, a comment from, we have an online audience from all over the world. There's a comment from United States cryptocurrency private investor Holden Robinson. And just to validate, he said his portfolio from this part of the world is performing better than ever. And it's because people are very honest and they repay. So keep doing this. The question, this past Thursday and Friday was at Tangaza University College. And the issue, what we've been inadvertently discussing here is liquidity. And the issue of community currency came up. And I was highly surprised to know in Kibera, in Mombasa, they've been very successful community currency experiments. And for those who think I'm talking something where basically what it is, think of bonga points, but you are then having a symbolic paper to represent your trade within the community. And the reason that this is good is because when you're under $1 a day, you can't save, it's very hard. So you put part of your money in shillings, part of your money in the community currency, and then it keeps on building as a buffer reserve. There's also an external reserve from the investor, and then you have the actual regular currency, and you have the community currency. And it's worked very well in Switzerland. It's now accepted in commercial banks for a lot. So when we're talking about this issue about can we build an economy with mamambogas, it's been done for quite a few decades in Switzerland.
Okay, thank you, Cecilia. Can we give her a big hand? I just want to talk a little bit more about that. I need him to say no, yes, you. Hush.
Just a couple of things very quickly. I'm not a financial expert, I'm a sales expert. But what we lack in Africa, or most of the third world countries that I see the fintech filling, is NBFCs. I haven't heard a word of non-banking financial companies. In India, we have about 15 or 18 large banks, but we have close to 50 or 100 NBFCs, which fill up the gap because a bank cannot reach everybody. Secondly, we're talking about development and mama bogas, which are, I think, about 80% of this of the population in general. Yeah, not just speaking about Kenya, any second or third world country. So definitely that 1,000 shillings does matter. And what I want to say is, because I work with the bottom of pyramid or the go-to or the startups, sometimes, as much as they may have a branch very close to the village, they don't have the fare to enter the branch. They don't have the fare. So that 1,000 shillings to them is worth $1 million. And in sales and marketing world, which probably all will acknowledge, is the word of mouth in Kenya sells more than anything. Yeah. And that is why people trust one another, and they will never let anybody down who borrows them 1,000 shillings, because it's worth $1 million to them.
Okay, thank you. Big hands. Now, a quick comment from Jap here. Mike. Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know if it's a quick comment, but more a question or more sort of something that I struggle with personally. You read, manufacturers associations complaining that the members are not getting paid by government institutions. The government is the biggest driver of the economy. Then you have, we still have economic growth, which is forecast by the IMF and by a central bank in the region of 5.5%, 5.7%. My question is, where is that growth coming from? I don't think we actually know how big what I call is that underlying informal economy is, right? We know. And I think the micro-lending, right, and the mobile money, it shows you that economy is massive, right? It is, to me, it's the driver of the economy, because formal business is not driving the economy. Everybody's complaining, right? The banks are sitting with non-performing loans. Last year they were very high, they're now coming down. Nobody's borrowing, everybody's sitting on their hands, now everybody's watching. So I don't know, that I think the mobile money space is contributing to a much bigger slice of the economy than we all think.
Yeah.
And I'd like to know, the view of the panel, because I don't know how we can get 5.7% growth if the biggest employer, the government, doesn't pay their bills.
Okay. And so, we can't exhaust tonight this whole topic. So I'm going to ask you, John, closing remarks. How do you see this evolving? There are some challenges within the mobile lending space, but clearly it has filled the gap and it continues to. How do you see this evolving, and how do you see you and the mobile lenders working together to make it even easier for all of us to get cheaper funding?
I think, let me start by saying this is an idea whose time has come. Okay, and I know I started by joking about the fact that I have to defend banks. That was my role on the panel today, the traditional banks. But the reality is, any bank today that is not thinking about digital, that is not thinking about digital, not just mobile, but digital, the cryptocurrency as you talked about, which is very true that banks are big investors in the research, blockchain research and all of that good stuff. Today, such a bank will be extinct in the next 5 to 10 years. Okay, so every bank is thinking we have hired the best brains today to help us understand, to help us, in fact, do a lot of research in this area. And in fact, I'm sure if you look at the money that's going into branch, I'm sure quite a bit of it is coming from banks. Okay, we're investing into these ideas, because all of us buy into the fact that the next big revolution is digital and is well understood. So, but I think, once you put it really well, there is always that danger of a single story. And we need to understand that there's a role for big banks, there's a role for micro-lending, and they can coexist, and they will coexist. And that's how the country will develop. Japji asked a very good question. Where is the 5.5% growth by the World Bank and the 6.2% growth that the central bank is estimating? Just so you know the numbers that they estimate, 6.2%. Where is it coming from? Yes, it is non-bogus. It's non-bogus. I did some research like you. I walked the streets quite a bit, and I was surprised. I don't know if you've ever been this surprised by the number of hair salons that we have in this country. I've been surprised. Every block, I counted 7 to 8 hair salons. Barber shops, hair salon, beauty parlor, something. Massage. I mean, there's so many, unbelievably many. And all those people have been viewed by branch, Mobilon, Mshwari,
Sacco.
Sacco.
Saving in the circles.
There you go. So those are the ones that are building the economy today. Yeah, what I meant by saying a country cannot be built by that alone is, yes, you can have a 5.5% growth. Yeah? But just as you know, every part in the world, they talk about the importance of the middle class. Because at the end of the day, that is where long-term development comes from. And what we're trying to do is move those mamambogas, those salons into the middle class as well.
Yes.
And that is where the role of the traditional banks, from a savings perspective, I think Coach made that comment very clear, from a savings perspective, where they play. So I think we need to, one, get away from the single story, realize that we need mobile lending and we must continue to invest in it and support it. I don't actually agree with my friend Dan that we should be introducing regulation. Regulation slows things down, in my view. Yeah? I think we should not introduce regulation. The only regulation I would say would be supportable is the one of usury rates, where you say don't charge a customer 300% a year. They just say don't charge a customer 100% a year. I'm fine with that. Because at the end of the day, we need the creativity. We need, we need that freedom to challenge the traditional banks. Again, let people discover fridges as we continue to sell ice. Thank you very
much. Your closing remark, but could you mention something that talks to the interest rates? I want some assurance as a would-be customer that the 3,000, the 300 rates are the outliers and they're really not impact investors like you seek to do.
Yeah. So, three things. The first thing is there's a very huge gap that needs to be filled. So this year alone, just to give you statistics, we are going to disburse $300 million in Kenya. That's like 30 billion. That tells you that it's a huge, huge market that needs to be filled. But even as we work to fill this gap, we have to do it responsibly. So I don't advocate for those high and ridiculous interest rates. I don't think they're reflective of what responsible lenders like us we are doing. I think there's a big opportunity to use data. We have so much data in this country that has never been harnessed. So we can do risk-based pricing based on the data that we have. So this is something that I would encourage other fintechs like us to embrace it, because that's the only way we can be able to manage these interest rates. Because again, you have to appreciate that we're also dealing with very high-risky borrowers. So the idea of them coming in with a higher rate and then coming down as we get to know how they perform is something that we can embrace. The other thing is, the last thing is, the kind of regulation that I talk about is not the one that is going to stifle innovation. And I know there are 3 bills that the government has come up with. Financial Market Conduct Bill, Data Privacy, and the ICT Bill. And last week we met with the CCK, Communication Authority, to give our views. What we want is regulation that is progressive, that is going to enable fintechs to be able to fill this very, very, very crucial segment of the population that is not catered for.
Give him a big hand. And Professor, there's a lot you can say. So, where are we going? And would you say we are on the right trajectory? Because I came here feeling the number in my head was 3,000 per annum. Now I'm a bit more relaxed. I could actually become a borrower. So are we on the right track? Are we doing it right? And are we onwards to much better things to come as far as mobile lending and the cryptocurrency space and generally data usage is concerned?
Okay, I would, anybody who listened to the proceedings at Davos, at the World Economic Forum, I think it was an event that ushered the new transformative technologies that are going to drive the economies in the next couple of years. we are shifting more towards blockchain, artificial intelligence, Internet of Things, big data analytics, which is part of artificial intelligence. A lot of the solutions that are coming around that space, even in cybersecurity. Even the report we are doing for the government on distributed ledgers, that is to create the necessary infrastructure that would enable those technologies to begin to diffuse in this part of the world. We are on the right track. The government once more is seeing forward and is trying to provide that infrastructure. And we need to create a legal framework that enables innovation. You can't say that you put policy ahead of innovation because it will stifle. We have seen that from the past.
Yes.
We struggled. Right now there are several applications that are coming around AI, around blockchain. This is what we need to enable in order to create greater inclusivity. Because of the income disparities in this country. And as I said, just a few people who own so much in this country. The only way to do it is to find a mechanism of enabling everybody to access that capital to grow. Yes, the small enterprises, we have about 7 million micro, small, and medium enterprises. 5.2 million of them are micro. And those micro, almost 60% are non-formal. You can't trace them. The reason why we say the growth is coming from that end is because after 5 years we say, well, our economy is bigger than is let us rebalance. We did a rebalancing, isn't it?
Yes, we did.
Just a few years ago, and we are about to jump from some 90 billion to 120 billion. 120, what? The economy? $120 billion US dollars, and our capital income would go up. There is a lot of activity in the non-formal SME sector that is actually driving the economy. We say SMEs contribute about 34% of the GDP force. Those are the formal ones where they are able to get data from. But as we move to collect the data, and I did an article about this and said the government is making a mistake by trying to tax the informal sector because they had reached a point to actually be able to see, because they are borrowing from formal sector, they can be able to track them from that end and they begin to measure the economy properly. And what the government do, they put taxes on that and they push those people directly down straight into the informality. So somebody needs to talk to the Minister of Finance and say there is a way we can formalize without necessarily burdening these people. And then we have a proper growth rate, we have a proper measurement of the economy. That's what we need to do. And one last thing is, she's not listening, we can stop there.
She's listening.
Yeah. It is true, we have those currencies operating, but what we want to see is that they are pegged on the shilling. They are pegged on, right now they are not pegged on anything. They create their own value system by investing in something. And one of the areas we want to work more is to move the economy more towards tokenizing it, to create tokens. But we need a lot of education because Nakumat is going down with people's money in terms of the tokens. Nobody has gone to say Hakiye on the street to get their money. I am not inciting you, but you have left so much money.
Which token? The loyalty points?
The loyalty points.
Oh, they have
that is your
points.
money. That is your money.
Come on, not in the streets.
Because it's money actually. You used to redeem them and get something
Yes.
out of it.
Yes.
Bonga points is one-to-one in terms of the shilling. So we need to not just look at those as a funny exercise and begin to look at it as our money.
And fight for it. He is saying, tomorrow I'll be in the streets. Was that a good session or what?
Yes, thank you.
Shall we give them a really big hand? And from myself, Professor John and Dan, I appreciate that more than just building the institutions that you're in, you're also trying to bring us along in building the Kenya that we want to see in 2030. And that to me says that you have bigger goals than just, your space where you're working from. You want to bring the rest of us along in imparting your knowledge or the best practices of how to get it done. The best way, how Professor is doing that. It's your second time here. I hope you had a good time and you're learning, even as we're learning from you. We're beating banks this time, aren't we? The 2 times that we've been here. So
I want to say he's one of the top managers.
Oh yes, I know. He won an award. What did you win, John? Quickly, you won an award, a world award. What was it about?
It's actually a nomination.
Okay.
Yes, I'm a finalist for the African Business Leader of the Year.
Wow. So more than just being recognized, because we obviously do recognize, that's why we keep calling on him a few times. It's Africa World Business Leader. It doesn't get better than that. To already end up on that list says a lot. So we'll be crossing our fingers and toes and everything else that we can. But a big hand that he's already on that list. To Fred, to James, to Jack, thank you so much. And to all of you for making it, even with the rain. I appreciate your being here, and I look forward to the next event when we can even have, we can continue to be banks. Guess how we nice. Guess how we nice, eh? Not fridges. Which one are you selling? Fridges or ice? Anyway, yeah, and with that, we're going to call it a night.